Welcome to the Mizell Show.
An inspiration for a new generation.
Hi, I'm Alana Mizell, a loving mother of two, a devoted wife to Stephen, and an entrepreneur helping women realize their dreams and potential.
And I'm Stephen Mizell, caring father of two, a devoted husband to Alana, and a driving force to help young men prepare for life after college football.
And if that wasn't enough, we're a biracial couple.
She was raised in the North, but I was raised in the South.
The only thing normal about our lives, who am I kidding? It's never normal around here. Join us for the Mizell Show.
Right now. Welcome back to the Mizell Show. Alana's holding the microphone.
You put it there. Also,
Yeah.
I just feel like my hair is so large.
Also, the fact that this is the first podcast in a long time, it's no beverage for you.
I just finished it, and I am a little bit panicking. So if I start coughing really loud, I'll get
Oh my goodness. But you have your blanket, though, and your blanket's a necessity. Got your blanket.
my blanket.
Oh, my blanket.
My blanket.
So, great episode last week, a couple weeks ago, with Meredith Leslie.
The Meredith Leslie.
Yeah. So, diving right in this week, what you reading, Alana?
Okay.
Alana stopped reading a book.
I
No
did.
offense.
No offense to the author, but I
It's
just...
season of life you're in. Just like,
It just wasn't a fit. It just wasn't a fit. So I've noticed, like, for those that have not listened to a bunch of our episodes, I battle with mental health, and I stopped taking my depression medication with guidance of health professionals back in March. And so it's kind of one of those things that I really try to pay attention to any sort of anxiety or depression triggers. Mm-hmm. And for me, this specific book that I was reading and kind of a few others lend to triggering because they may be talking about death or maybe talking about just kind of like fixating on issues that I currently have in my life. And that's not what I want to read.
No.
Unless it's
when you read, you want to kind of
situation.
escape. You want to try something.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that.
If it's a self-help, I'm here for it. But I don't want it to be my, like, rom-com beach read vibe.
Yeah.
And I cannot remember the name of the book because I just started it.
You took it back to the library, didn't you?
No, the one I just started.
Oh, the newest Court of Thorns.
Yeah, and something. And Court of Thorns and Roses or something like that.
Yes.
It's a YA book, so a young adult book. And it's been big. A couple of my other friends have read it. There was like 20-something copies at the library, which is unheard of.
Alana got a brand new copy at the library because they just needed to get more copies of the library. So it
brand new.
It
and I told Stephen this, but it was hysterical because I went in with Briggs, and I got it, and she said, "Oh, thank goodness it's you." And I was like, "Why?" And she said, "It's a brand new book. I didn't want some teeny bopper coming in and ruining it the first time it gets borrowed."
Well, little does she know how. Make
Just
sure
me.
High expectations for you, though, bro.
But I keep it in my little pouch.
Well, I know you will, but like, just don't let her down.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I better love it. Read through it and love it.
Yeah,
I don't know. She's going to ask me, I feel like.
She's definitely going to ask you about it.
So, yeah, that's what I've been reading recently. We also started, not that long ago, we started reading all the Harry Potters together as a family.
Yep.
Briggs doesn't pay attention, really, but that's...
He tries.
That's fine. So we finished the first one, Sorcerer's Stone, and now we're on the second one, and we got the illustrated version, which isn't helping Briggs pay attention.
No.
Briggs is 4, for those that don't know, but Adele, our 7, almost 8-year-old, loves it.
Loves it. We
So,
watched the first movie.
Yes.
This is the last time
the deal is you read the book, then we watch the movie. Read the book, and we watch the movie. So he's just ready for the hot cocoa and watching the movie.
He loves that. What are you listening to? Oh, by the way, last time we checked in with our village, you went to see Lauren Daigle. You still listen to Lauren Daigle?
She's so good. Her Kaleidoscope tour, if you don't have tickets, get tickets. It is phenomenal. For those that are not super religious, it's not very in your face, and
It was a good concert, though.
it was a fantastic concert. So it's a little bit of jazz, a little bit of blues,
A little bit of soul.
a little bit of soul. It's really good.
It's a good album.
I've listened to that album top to bottom, 20 times.
Yes, I mean, I have listened to
It's
the
a little
album. It is
ridiculous.
good. I've also been listening to Rod Wave drop the new album.
Not to be confused with Ron White.
No, not Ron White. Rod Wave. It's kind of like he's an artist that kind of brings me together with a group of friends that I have. We all like, when we drop a single, it goes in our group chat. when the album came out last Friday, we all put our like favorite songs in the group chat.
Oh,
So
that's fun.
it's good. I really like his album is good. It speaks to a lot of different things. So I'm listening to Rod Wave. We are currently watching
Is it Wave? W-A-V-E
Yeah,
or
Rod Wave.
W-A-D-E?
Wave, like Ride the Wave.
Like Ride the Wave, but
Yeah.
it's Ron.
Rod.
Oh, jeez.
Sorry, it's okay.
Whatever.
And so listen to
I
Rod.
won't be listening to it.
listening to Rod Wave, and we're watching a number of different things. Like
We are, but one thing that I feel like everybody needs to watch, adults, is
Oh.
37
Single by Jared Freed.
Jared Freed.
Yes.
Y'all, he is hysterical.
He's pretty funny.
I've seen it twice now.
She's
once
seen it
by
twice.
myself, once with Steven. The first time I had to pause the show because I was laughing so hard I couldn't breathe.
Yes.
And then I was laughing just as hard the second time. But I knew that what the punchline was going to be.
Sometimes when you work from home, it's good to have background noise on. Like you have Alexa play a song, or sometimes you just put a bad TV show on and let the show go. And so Alana had this bright idea that she was going to, work from the kitchen or something, or the den. I'll just put this 37 and Single on. She did, she was dying laughing. I'm like, Alana, are you actually getting work done? She's like, yes, and just cackling away. I'm like
hysterically.
She had to.
But I think with stand-up comedy, you can watch it, but you can just listen to it, and it's still going to be just as
good.
funny.
Yeah, but it was good. We watched it together.
It was so funny.
We watched it together this weekend. It's raunchy, so I will say this.
Yeah, it's definitely for adults.
It's for adults.
Be prepared.
And believe it or not, we started a new show that I don't understand why we started. We started watching the morning show on Apple TV, and it is so good.
No, what happened was I started it, and then
you asked for a recommendation.
I asked for a new show.
Yeah.
For myself.
What's for yourself?
And then Steven stood there and watched almost the full
I was supposed
first
to be
episode.
doing other things, and I just started watching.
And he just stood still, and I was like, "Okay, I guess I'm going to pause this, and we're going to watch it together."
Well, luckily, Virgin River dropped for you, so you got something
I understand
else.
that, but what I'm saying is, it started. You're like, I don't know why we started a new show. It's because I did, and then you wanted to watch it.
But I will also say this to our audience: we have done a really good job not watching TV during the week. So also, we only have 2 days to watch a show. Friday, Saturday.
At bedtime.
Yeah, bedtime.
Right.
So we don't have much time to get through the shows.
Yeah, no, it's going to take us forever.
Forever. Let's give the audience Formula One. We love that show. We haven't watched it.
We haven't finished Blacklist.
We haven't finished Ted Lasso. We
haven't finished The Morning Show.
Haven't finished Yellowstone. Yellowstone dropped.
We haven't finished Yellowstone.
Oh, and Jack Reacher.
Jack Ryan. Yeah. So what we need is about a month and a half of
TV binging.
TV binging, no working. We're also not going to go anywhere.
Just stay in the house and watch a show.
Uber Eats deliver.
But we say this. We had a weekend to ourselves a couple weekends ago, and my wife always says, let's just sit still and just watch a show. Here I am at Hobby Lobby on a Saturday, and she gets fabric and then goes and sews Adele a dress.
I started it as a dress for me, and then...
No, but I'm just saying that you say you want to watch a show, but you are antsy as Briggs. And
I feel like that's not
she just wakes up I want to build a dress, and all of a sudden our dining room table has a sewing machine, and the dress is beautiful. So I am very proud of you for creating the dress.
Okay.
You did a good job, and she likes it.
She does like it.
Yeah, and so...
I just feel like you just came at me.
No, I came at you because I'm proud of you for not many people can sew a dress.
Valid.
Yes.
Valid, I get that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
From start to finish.
From start to, I made the pattern and all the things.
Thank you. Thank you. Crown yourself, please.
Valid. Okay.
Speaking of watching things, this weekend we watched...
Well, okay, so last weekend was Little Mermaid because it had just come out.
Little Mermaid did come out.
As a family, which was huge in our house because Little Mermaid is black.
Yes.
And so for Adele to see a black lead character is huge, and it being Little Mermaid and Ariel was it was a thing. So she loved that. And then this weekend was a movie called Element.
Element, yes.
It was so good.
By Pixar, and it is really, really good. The kids had wanted to see it when it came out, but we kind of
we don't do the theater too much because it costs too much money.
Yeah, just call it like it is.
And Briggs doesn't sit still, so I'm not going to bring him to a movie theater and have him not sit still.
Yes.
And Adele will fall asleep in a movie theater. Therefore, wasting $40 because they'll get through their little popcorn and then one will fall asleep, one will be standing up.
Going up and dinner.
Like, I'm not playing that.
But they had really been looking forward to seeing this movie, though.
They did. For sure. And we watched it as a family. We do movie night. We do the works. We get the popcorn. We get the treats. Yeah. All of it. And we didn't really know what it was about. We didn't watch the trailer. We just saw that it was, PG or whatever. And watching it, there are two main characters. If you haven't seen it,
go see it.
Pause this and then listen to this episode later. Because we're going to spill all the tea. So there's a fire girl, and then there's a water boy.
Yes.
And so it's kind of this dance between two different cultures and two people or two things, two elements coming together.
Yeah.
And then the irony of Stephen and Mai's relationship really rang true.
Yeah.
I felt like. And so there were parts of it that, Steve and I kind of glanced at each other as like, hey, that feels like us.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting to see a movie that depicted our lives so closely that our kids could then better understand.
No, I think so too. And I think the thing about that movie is it also, from the story of how the fire came to the country, it came to the city. It came to be able to help us talk to your grandparents' journey from coming to quote unquote coming to Ellis Island and being able to transition to a place where with my parents and my heritage not being welcome. So I think it had so many different avenues of teaching moments for us because it was really impactful. And so to have that depicted in a movie in which they could understand it was beautiful. And
we didn't kind of dig into that as the movie was playing, but so then after the movie, on Disney Plus, there's extras, and so it actually told the director's storyline because he's an Asian American and his parents are Korean, and they came to the United States, and that's really where he got the picture of this fire family who came to theoretical New York City, which is where his parents came in. So my great-grandfather came to the United States in 1900 from Italy. And so being able to explain that to Adele that more than likely, we're not sure, but he came through Ellis Island was a big thing because they showed real pictures of kind of what that looked like. And one thing that really hit me hard was when the fire people came through Ellis Island, the kind of person that let them in didn't understand their names. So they just arbitrarily gave them new ones.
Gave them a name, yeah.
And how many times has that happened? You think about your last name, or when you think about
your name.
My last name is
Raleigh,
name, which is Italian, but they didn't change that. But when you think about from like an African slave trade, there are so many last names that are now gone because they were either changed for convenience of a white person or an Anglo-Saxon, I should say. Convenience of an Anglo-Saxon dialect, or changed back to the slave owner's name.
Yeah.
Which is just really interesting to kind of think about through the lens of like a child's story. They just barely touched the surface, but allowed us to dig in as parents. Another thing that I really loved was this depiction and battle between when, like for Stephen and I, when we met and we started to fall in love, for us, it wasn't a thought of, are my parents going to accept you? I honestly didn't care. But if they had, this movie depicts the challenge of bringing up the fact that you're in an interracial relationship.
Yeah. Because
the fire and the water end up dating throughout the movie, ultimately.
And I think that actually goes back to probably one of my, think about the overall view of the movie. It's so many different scenes, there's so many different parts of the movie, but the part of the movie that really stood out to me was, there are couples out there, there are people out there who are courting, and even the director of this movie stated that he dated his current wife for 7 years.
7 years, yeah.
Because she was Anglo-Saxon and he was Korean, and he knew his parents would struggle with the relationship. But
and his grandmother on his dying bed said, "Marry Korean."
Yeah, yeah.
And in the movie, they depict that as well, which is funny.
Yes.
And I have to believe that my great-grandfather is probably rolling over in his grave when my father's parents, one is Italian, one is Irish. And when they got married, there was also some severe turmoil in the Boston area because those two races didn't mix.
Irish and Italian, yes.
And so I'm sure he was rolling over in his grave when that happened. And then was rolling over in his grave again when you and I got married. Like, what is this? We're moving further away from my Italian blood.
I mean, that's valid. But I think the part of the movie that really made me feel even more grateful for the life that we are living currently is the water guy introduces the fire girlfriend to his family, and the entire family was just so welcoming and accepting. And seeing how happy he was, and that's something that is a true blessing for us that we probably don't think about a lot because we lived it and we see it, but the fact that we have two sets of parents that welcomed this relationship and welcomed our family and welcomed their grandkids, in which there are people out there in 2023 who are struggling with dating someone because they know what mom and dad might say, what grandma or grandfather might say.
Healing and wellness and motivation is huge for the Mizell Show. And recently we had New Day Healing and Wellness on the podcast. We are super, super excited to be able to offer you guys a discount code under the name Mizell. If you hop into New Day Healing and Wellness, you can go to Red Light, you can go to the sauna, you can do the salt booth. They have so many different things to offer, and we're just so excited for you guys to be able to experience some wellness of your own.
And so, hearing that and seeing that movie, what is something we can do to help share, to help people get through those moments?
Yeah, so I think we have another facet that we've got to think about. So in the movie, the parents and the families were very welcoming to the opposite element, opposite race, which is our picture. But what was also depicted was a little girl with her dad not being allowed to go somewhere. And their store being ransacked and targeted because they were the first fire family in the neighborhood. Yeah. Which is what happened to your family on one of the houses that y'all moved to. You guys were the first ones to move into that area. So that allowed the communication to our children to help them understand. But even as fire and water end up dating, there's still outside turmoil and pressure that is coming into their group. And they haven't even had children yet. Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things that I've learned through 7, almost 8 years of parenting, even though we were adults and we chose to come into this relationship and our family supported us, the outside world, I would think the majority of the world does support it, but there is a percentage of people that just hate it. Yeah. And they will let you know that they hate it. And so it's kind of this next level of helping our children understand that those people don't deserve a place in your life and don't deserve to bring down the joy that's in your life. And so even them just hearing that it did happen to Granny and Pawpaw was important to Adele in particular at Briggs and Care. We'll have to have this whole conversation again with Briggs later on in life. We will. But just having them understand that there are people in their lives that have faced it for them. So that hopefully as they get older, it will be easier. Yeah. But it will be interesting to see, and Avatar actually touches on this as well, Avatar Into the Water, of how the society accepts or what transgressions they go through as biracial kids. Yeah. Because that's a whole nother level that neither you or I can approach. But, your parents in particular, even my dad, because he was Irish Italian up in New England, in Boston, just some of the things that they went through, they'll actually be able to turn to their grandparents, who, although it's not the exact same, it's going to be similar. Very similar. Or potentially it could be similar.
No, and I agree with that, but because within the movie, the fire father wasn't very accepting of the
At first.
But
what was interesting is even within the movie, he wasn't accepting at first, but the wife was. So I feel like if there is one component of the family, I wouldn't say that all of my family was like, oh, good, she married a black guy.
Well, they met me. I think so. They all were.
They did. And
but I don't know the outside perspective of you, right? So I can't guarantee that.
I will say that there have been times in my life growing up in New England that there are some of my family that were very against it, anything but Italian and Catholic. Okay. And so, I remember times speaking to my uncle about how, no, that's not okay. How you're thinking is not right. et cetera, et cetera. And I think one of the biggest things that we can do as a society, you asked that question, what can we do, is expose them to people that demolish their stereotypes.
Yeah.
So Stephen is an example, and they actually say this in the movie. One of the, when they're at the dinner, the fire element is there, and one of the guys says, "Wow, you're so articulate," and the fire girl just spouts back and says, "Weird, I've been speaking this way my whole life."
Yeah.
So it was like, why don't you speak fire language?
Yeah.
And I speak water. So same thing with Stephen. People have said to him, "Wow, I thought you were white when I heard your voice."
Yeah.
Which is, like, what does white sound like?
I guess
Tell me what that is.
That's a great question. I guess articulate.
Tell me what articulate, but why
yeah.
does articulation equal white?
That's valid. Yeah, I
That's
get that.
garbage to me. That's just garbage.
Yeah.
But I think knowing that those facts exist, like I knew for my uncle in particular, there's just one in my head, that was a challenge. There's a couple other people that I knew were going to be just little sassy dances. But what was so important there was for them to meet Stephen and hear him be articulate, hear him or see him be put together. Like, not every black person
is what the stereotype of that person's head. Yeah.
Whatever stereotype they've conjured up in their head.
Yeah.
Just like every Italian is not, well, the majority of us are, but is not every stereotype that's been conjured up in your head. And one of the things that, actually going back to Lauren Daigle's album, she has this song, oh gosh, Ego, I think it is. It's Ego.
Yeah.
And she, even through the concert, she talks about how we are so much more similar than we are dissimilar.
Yes.
Whether it be what we like to eat, how we like to be outside, how we like to do this, how we like to do that. Like, we are so much more similar than we are dissimilar. And I think the more as we go into interracial relationships or interracial friendships or start to bring in different cultures into our lives, the more we can help debunk and really showcase the similarities. I think the easier it is for the people that don't understand that dissimilarities don't matter.
Yeah, and I think one thing that is very challenging, I will say, not a challenge, but also I think it's a good thing. So we, after the movie, we watched it now twice, Adele said, "Hey, would you watch this without us?" And we were like, yes. But her saying that really kind of resonated to me is how many people need to watch this movie but won't watch the movie because it's a cartoon.
Yeah.
Because the kids that are watching this movie, and hopefully the parents are too, they're hopefully already on the right track. You hope that. But a lot of times the kids are not, because the kids are living what the parents are kind of putting in their head, which may be good or bad.
Yeah.
But the kids are sponges.
Issue.
You know, the kids are going to go for the flow of what the parents or what the school is leaning towards. But the real people that need to watch this movie are the adults who are, you know, kind of stuck in their ways or not willing to transition. And it's such a powerful message in that movie.
It is so powerful, but I also think it's important. We have a specific lens. So that's why we chose to talk about Element today and bring in Avatar: Way of the Water and bring in these different components that have entered our lives. I believe that there are so many people that have watched that movie and never put the association to actual society as a correlation.
I hope not. But I'm sure. But
you have to remember, we have a very unique lens.
Yeah.
That's why we created this podcast. That's why we continue to talk about radical change and race.
Yeah.
That's why we continue to talk about uncomfortable things, whether it be infertility, what society thinks, like, constantly. It's important to us, and it's because we have a lens that many other people don't.
But you saying that definitely kind of like rings a bell to me. Like, yes, someone can actually watch that movie, like, oh, it's a cute love story, and that's it, and miss everything.
That's all
else
they're going to see.
Because,
and I can guarantee there are people in our lives related to us. I'm thinking of one. Hopefully, you can read my mind. That would have never gotten what we got out of that. Would have never watched the extras to actually see why the movie was created and what it was. I would say that there are thousands of people that never translated that. Same with Avatar: Way of the Water. So the way Avatar: Way of the Water is, if you haven't seen it, like, what are you doing with your life? But you got to go back and see the first one, then you got to see the second one. There are some interracial, intercultural people.
Yeah.
There's a human that becomes an avatar.
Yeah.
So, like, that gets mixed together.
Yeah.
And then they have children.
Yeah.
He has children. A biracial man has children with an avatar, whole avatar woman.
Yeah.
Or 100% avatar. I shouldn't say whole, because both of them are whole.
Yeah.
And then their children are even more biracial. And then their biracial children start to, have eyes for, have feelings for a whole nother culture that looks a little bit different.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they are all still avatars. Just like ultimately, we are all still humans.
Yeah.
Just like in Elements, they are ultimately all still elements. Mm-hmm. But it's what are they made up of? And what's interesting is in the movie, the water and the fire end up touching. And they test the water first. Like, what is this going to look like?
Yeah.
Like, just start with their fingers. And the water guy even says, we changed our chemistry.
Yeah.
And so that's actually what you're doing when you end up having biracial children or you have an interracial marriage or interracial relationship. You're changing the chemistry and the constructs of culture and society because you're moving two together. And in the extras, they even talk about how when you add in additional cultures to a society, it shakes up the society so that you can see more things.
And
you
feel
can
more
do
things
more things.
Yeah.
You can grow more more holistically as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope and I pray that people understand that movie was not just this element, cutesy, blah, 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 blah. And I hope that those little thought nuggets throughout our children's lives will grow for them to be less adverse to different cultures.
And I think that's something that, I hope that, I really do challenge people to watch that movie from that different lens because it's something that, it's a great movie, quote unquote, but like if you really watch it, it turns into a phenomenal movie. It turns into something like so much more bigger. And this was this director's first time fully directing a movie, and it was beautiful. And it just talks to so many different aspects of our lives. And like Alana mentioned, when the water guy asked for her hand the first time, he said, let's just start and just try. Just touch my hand.
Let's just see what
happens.
happens.
See what happens. And so if you're struggling right now with that relationship or that friendship, just be willing to take that chance.
Do you remember when you said, let's just see what happens? Something very similar to me. In the movie, I am so the fire girl.
Oh, she's definitely the fire girl.
I am
she's
the fire
girl.
And I would even say from like our parent family perspective, your family was instantly welcoming.
Yeah.
My parents didn't have the issue.
Yeah.
But it was my family that was like,
yeah.
What are you doing? It was my family when I moved to Memphis, too, because me and my sister were one of the few that ever moved out of a small town. Like, oh, heaven forbid. We moved states away.
Yeah.
But as you guys watch the movie, you'll be like, oh, look, there's Alana. There she is again. And even,
definitely
fighting back at the water, fighting back at Steven. Yeah. There was so many points. There was
a couple points water guy.
That Adele said, is that true? Did you do that? And we're like, yes.
Yes. Mommy was a little firecracker. She still is a firecracker, but like
there's even a component where the mom of the water guy goes and calls her friend about an internship, and Steven did the same thing, y'all, for me, and
the same reaction the fire girl has was like, who do you think you are to tell me to go do these things?
I can do this on my own.
I can do this on my own.
You don't know my life.
Yes, and and I think what makes this movie so even more special is that we can talk to Briggs and Adele about our love story.
Yeah.
And we were able to kind of talk to them about
a different format. Yeah.
But to see the movie and to see these characters and they say, oh, that's like daddy and that's like mommy. It was so spot on.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to cherish this movie even more now. And one thing that the director mentioned that I think is so important, he said when making the movie, his mom was, Korean and they would love to go to see the movies, but she would go watch a movie with regular actors and never get it. But when you have characters,
she didn't understand
the language.
Yeah, the regular. Okay, I get.
Yeah, she didn't understand the language or the body language. But he said when she went to go watch cartoons or animation, she could feel the moments, and she could feel and see the love. Some Dumbo and some of the animals. So just like this movie now, you're like, if you actually see and feel what these people are saying, no matter what the language barrier is, you can watch that movie with no sound, and you could still understand what the struggle is, what the differences are. And that's the beauty. Not many movies you can watch and turn the sound off and actually still know what's going on.
Yeah.
In this movie, the entire flow of the movie, you can see the battle, you can see the love, you can see the struggle, you can see all these things by just watching it. And I think that's what one of the things he's trying to do is like, with a language barrier or a culture barrier, if you watch these cartoons, Because if you put element to a movie with like real people,
it's not as
good.
good.
That's it.
It removes it.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those, if you can think through, let me just watch this movie without sound, and the emotions and the movement of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
I think taking that lens and being able to step back and kind of watch other people's lives interact is a beautiful analogy to kind of how to approach cultural situations. Yeah. Maybe it's not speaking up when you're in those moments. Maybe it's sitting back and watching the culture kind of take place. Maybe it's asking people outside that maybe you know better, me or Steven, if you're talking about interracial, about, hey, what did that look like? Because although Steven and I never had a direct issue with it, like between us, there have been outside people who have had issues with it. I will also say another great show to watch that can help you kind of talk about Black families, Black insecurities, Black submission to white culture is Family Reunion. Ooh. They have a couple of episodes that really talk about targeting Black children. And it allowed us to talk about that with Adele and the reality of it. And it opened up questions for Briggs and for Adele to talk to us about it. And the reality is that's something that we've had to start to talk to Adele about since she was 4. And how Briggs is 4 now. And that's just how our life is. But know that... Look at me getting all emotional.
You're emotional. Yeah. It's okay.
It's something that we chose, but it doesn't mean that that's how they have to keep living. And I think that's what Element was trying to do, is set this new generation up for success to where you don't have to raise a 4-year-old to understand that because they're half Black, that their life is different.
Yeah. And it's people like this director and people like our Mizell Village that continue to listen and support and have an understanding of how we want to continue to impact and raise our children. And I think, moments like this are just phenomenal talking points that we didn't know that were coming, and we are now extremely grateful for. And we challenge you to watch those movies and watch these shows and have the conversations.
And as parents, step into them.
Yes. Use
these animated movies to talk about, to just breeze into the conversation. You could even just generally talk about, well, how do you think that girl felt when her dad didn't accept them? Like, dig into that. You don't have to say, well, how have you seen that in your life with white and Black people, or Asian people and white people, or this and that? You don't have to do that. You can lean into the Element movie, or you could even intentionally watch it and be like pausing throughout it and really trigger those open-ended conversations to where you are really just talking about the elements, but subliminally you are talking about culture as it is now.
Yeah. Yeah. Didn't see that coming, did you?
Nope.
Nah.
Sure didn't.
Well, as always,
we
appreciate you guys checking in with us, and we really challenge you to look into the movie. You
can get it on Disney Plus.
Disney Plus. You can rent it, whatever you want to decide to do, but it's definitely worth the watch. And just lean into these moments because they're very sacred moments with your children, and you don't want to miss out on those moments. And people are out there trying to make it a little bit easier for us.
Yeah. There are resources that I think our parents never had.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
So if you guys are enjoying this, definitely leave us a review. Give us the feedback. If there's something you guys want us to talk about, reach out to us on our website at themizellshow.com. There is a contact section. You can put it in there. We would love to hear about it. Or you can always go over to Instagram at The Mizell Show. Also, as always, don't forget to screenshot this episode and just add it to your stories and tag us on Instagram, on Facebook at The Mizell Show. Thanks, guys. Are you loving The Mizell Show? Well, we love you all. And did you know that you can have me and Steven talk to your team or a group of 25 of your friends? All it takes is 25 people showing up on either a Zoom call, a Facebook Live, or really anywhere. Hopefully in person sooner rather than later. But how do you get us? So all you have to do is email themizellshow@gmail.com Or you can direct message us on Instagram at The Mizell Show.